Celtic were seconds away from being crowned champions of Scotland for the 4th year in a row this afternoon. However, circumstances mean that we need to wait a little bit longer before we can start the title celebrations. We're effectively there, Christ, we have been since December, but we need to wait. And we're going to talk about that today. With every negative comes the positives. I suppose winning it in front of our own fans will have to do. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. We are very close to hitting that 49,000 subscribers. We're around 60 subs away. After that, it's the stretch, the final run-in to the big 50,000. So if you haven't already, go down below, hit both of those buttons. It's absolutely free. We're going to have a look at this weekend's Scottish Premiership action, the last weekend before the split fixtures, and we're going to talk about a few wee transfer related stories which could have big implications on what Celtic look to do next season. So bear with me, we're going to go through all of that. So reigning champions of Scotland, Celtic were forced to wait a little bit longer before they can officially call themselves champions again after a last-minute Rangers goal up at Pittodrie this afternoon. Rangers came from 2-0 behind, and a disallowed Aberdeen goal meant that a point wasn't enough to say Celtic are champions just yet, even though the league table dictates that it's all but done. Here was the table come full time at Pittodrie. Celtic now 15 points clear of Rangers, following them dropping points once more. And with 5 games to play, that means Rangers could only finish with the same amount of points as Celtic this season if we were to lose every single game. However, that huge goal difference is just impossible to overcome. Celtic are effectively champions, but mathematically it's not official yet. Wouldn't have been the case if Aberdeen won this afternoon, but they're useless. So we need to hold on a couple of weeks. In all seriousness, it's hardly a big deal. We know that Celtic are on track to becoming champions, and we've knew that since 2024. You know, we went into January quite clearly the team who were going to win the league this year, and I wasn't scared to hide that. I still remember coming onto this channel after the 3-0 defeat at Ibrox and saying that we will win the league this year. And that's going to happen. We're 15 points clear and in a great position. We just need to hold on a couple of weeks. Granted, you know, guess it's a good thing, isn't it? It's a good thing. You don't want to win your 55th title in front of no fans. I mean, who would do such a thing? You know. So I'm not overly fussed. I would have loved to have won it today. I was still gutted when Rangers scored that late equaliser, but it's hardly a big deal. I'm not going to sit and cry about it. So we obviously just need to wait, and we don't quite know yet who we will win the league against. Naturally, the big question is, who will Celtic win the league against? Will it be at Celtic Park? Will it be away from home? We don't know. We need to wait till probably tomorrow when the SPFL reveal the fixtures for the post-split games. Celtic know who they'll be playing, but they don't know when and where. The likelihood is, though, Celtic will probably be away from home on that first game, and that's the game where we can win the title. We only need 1 point to call ourselves champions, so a draw on match day 34 is enough. Is it going to be against St Mirren? Is it going to be against Aberdeen? Hibs? We don't know. The only team I can pretty much guarantee it won't be against is Rangers. They won't make Rangers match day 34. Ibrox won't be the first stop in this post-split fixture list. So yeah, one of those other sides that have finished in the top 6, St Mirren, Aberdeen, Dundee United or Hibs, that's who we'll win the league against. We don't know if it'll be at Celtic Park or away from home, but as I've said, you could probably put your money on it being one for the away fans this time round, just like it has been the majority of the last 10 years. It's a gutter we couldn't win the title in front of 60,000 Celtic fans yesterday. However, defeat up in McDiarmid Park last week meant that was impossible. However, our reaction was exactly what you would expect following weeks of some discontent amongst supporters over recent performances, and Brendan Rodgers was especially delighted with the 5-1 win. He said that it was the exact sort of reaction he was looking for. As frustrated as I was last week, it was a brilliant reaction. The first 30 minutes were as good as we've been. That's more like what we've been for large parts of the season. Winning attitude mixed with talent, you get that performance. We're nearly there. It comes when it comes. I feel so much happier than I was last week. You see the response over a week's working today. It puts us in a perfect place going into the Scottish Cup semi-final. If we get a performance like that, hopefully we'll be in the final. So Brendan Rodgers especially delighted over yesterday's performance. I think every Celtic fan was. Naturally, the team slowed it down a little bit in the second half, protecting ourselves, protecting the legs, going into a big semi-final against a team who have just beat us, remember. So yeah, I think that the positivity has returned to Celtic fans heading into that game. The momentum is certainly back on Celtic's side. And yeah, it would have been great to be celebrating 4 in a row at Celtic Park yesterday with, you know, the Drifters playing over the tannoy and roll with it and everything else. But that'll come. And as Roger says, it will come when it comes. We'll enjoy it. We're living in the glory days of being a Celtic fan. And if we need to wait just a little longer, it's worth the wait. Talking about yesterday, I did say in my match reaction we would cover things in a little more depth today. There was no negatives to take from yesterday's game. Every player, every aspect of the performance was basically bang on the money. The only negative was conceding a goal. But, you know, some players really coming out from a few weeks of questionable performances and showing us exactly why they are players that for the last however many years we've been ranting and raving about, because this is a great Celtic side and a lot of us needed a wee bit of a reminder, I think, of that. Not so much myself, who knew exactly how good this squad was, but some people quick to sell players or drive them to the airport themselves. I'm glad to see the likes of Vickers yesterday getting back to his best, the likes of Hatate being back to his best. This is a really talented Celtic side, guys, and we're lucky to have it. But one of the standout performers of yesterday's game was none other than Greg Taylor. That's right, he got the start over Jeffrey Schlupp for the first time in quite a while yesterday at Celtic Park, and potentially one of his last games in the stadium. We only have 2 more games this season at Celtic Park, and Greg Taylor's no guarantee to start them, so who knows, could have been his last start at Celtic Park yesterday. And if it was, what a performance, what a brilliant performance from him. I think that he deserves his flowers for that. It's obviously got a lot of people talking about, you know, maybe we should make a last-ditch effort to get them to sign a contract. Look, guys, it's as simple as this. Taylor is moving on. It's 90% likely that he's moving on in the summer. Brendan Rodgers himself has said that. And I think it's about time. Look, listen, he's been a great servant to the club, and yesterday was a great reminder of how good he can be at times. But there's obviously a point in the player's career where they want new challenges, and Celtic are willing to bring in new faces. And that's just natural. That's just football. You know, we've seen loads of players come and go, some a lot better and some a lot worse than Greg Taylor. So it's just part and parcel with following your team. However, a touching tribute from Greg Taylor yesterday following the game. Greg Taylor took to Instagram to post this touching tribute to yesterday's game with his newborn daughter. Hard to put today into words. Ruby Taylor, I love you so much, with a brilliant photograph and a great memory for Greg Taylor of him and his daughter, just born a few weeks ago, of course, been a big part of Greg Taylor's life recently, and it was really nice to see him sharing that moment with her on the field. Despite some weird reactions to it online from supporters of other clubs, I can safely say it's a very touching and lovely moment for Greg Taylor that I'm glad he got before he leaves Celtic. So yeah, a lovely photo, a big day for Greg Taylor, clearly emotional. Let's see a few more performances like that before you leave, Greg. Finally, I did mention this at the start of the video, we need to talk about a player who could potentially sign for Celtic in the summer and has now confirmed was maybe very close to signing for us last summer. That player is Michel-Ange Balikwisha, the Antwerp winger who last summer was reportedly on the verge of becoming a Celtic player until he picked up a massive injury which basically kept him out for more than half of the season. But he was very open in the media about a potential move last summer, and he's been very open about this potentially being his last few games as an Antwerp player. And following reports that have came out quite recently, that might mean that Celtic are back in and very much looking to make this happen. This was him speaking in an interview with a journalist in Belgium, saying that without injuries I've had this season, I probably wouldn't be at Antwerp anymore. I suffered a meniscus injury in the 2024 winter transfer window, and last summer Celtic, Lille and Lens came knocking, and I was out again at a bad time. I don't know whether I will leave this summer. The chairman and Mark Overmars will be in charge of that in the coming weeks. How I end the playoffs will determine a lot, but if I continue on this pathway I'm playing, things can go quickly, and if it turns out tomorrow that my Antwerp story is coming to an end, then I hope to sign elsewhere in time so that I can play a farewell match to the fans. So it sounds like, I mean, if this was a Celtic player coming out with these comments, I'd be pretty accepting that they were leaving the club. If this was Dyson Maeda saying this, I'd be, oh well, he's off, you know. And so I'm pretty sure that Balikwisha is essentially saying he wants to move this summer. Will it be to Celtic? It could be. He name dropped us in this interview. Remember, literally less than 2 weeks ago, we spoke about Balikwisha on the channel, and there was reports that came out that Celtic were in Belgium looking at him alongside another couple players. So, who knows? We've been hearing that wingers are needed, and Brendan Rodgers has spoke very openly about freshness in the side and how he wants a big summer window. Is Balikwisha one of the first names on the list? It's very possible. Right then, that does it for today. If you've enjoyed, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. That would be appreciated. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And don't worry, ladies and gents, it will be a matter of time before we're sitting here to talk about Celtic being champions of Scotland once again. So, yeah, hold tight and we'll get there. Anyway, if you've enjoyed, let me know. I'll see you all next time.